All right, we will go ahead and move forward with our final session. A couple more housekeeping things before we get started. The first is if you did not get a chance to sign up, I think some people may have gotten in without signing up. We have this at the back. I'll set this once again just right outside the door. So please do take a moment and sign up so that we know you are here. Also on April 26th is our next TIC, and that is for 6th through 12th grade. And it's kind of, we've never done this one before. It's for IT, industrial arts, ag, FCS. It's kind of a different kind of group. And we still could use presenters. We have some, but if you're aware of someone in your district that you think would do a great job, if you could have them get in contact with any one of the consultants here at Heartland, we would love to be able to showcase them and have them share with other educators. So once again, that's April 26th. It is 6th through 12th, but if you're aware of anybody in that kind of umbrella or category, we're always looking for educators to share with each other. And then finally, on the agenda, whether you have it up on your computer or on your table, the very last thing at the bottom does have a link, a bit.ly, to a TIC eval form. If you would, at the end of today, just take a moment to fill that out. That really does help us. We're trying to continue to evolve TIC and make it meaningful for you, so we want to make sure we're hitting the target. So anything you can do, take some time to fill that out, we would greatly appreciate. So we're going to move on to our last two presenters. We have Tyler and Matt from Knoxville, and I believe this is going to be some hands-on work today around stop-motion video. So hopefully you are ready to learn and you have your iPads ready to roll, and we'll turn it over to them. Please give them a warm welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's on. As he said, all right. As he said, we are from Knoxville. My name is Tyler Pearson. I'm currently a 5th grade teacher there. Next year, I'm stepping into a new role as a K-5 tech integrationist. So if anybody has some ideas for me going forward with that, that'd be great. But we have our contact information, so if you have any questions today or following our presentation today, we'll be happy to help out in the future too.
And my name is Matt Dunkin, and I teach 3rd grade at Knoxville. So we're going to go and get started learning about stop motion.
Last year, we attended the one-to-one conference in Des Moines, and we saw this app, and we thought we'd try it out a little bit, but the hard part for me when I first looked at the app was it seemed like it was really geared toward middle school and high school type of work. And so we tried to bring an elementary perspective to it so you can see different content areas and different grade levels with it as well. When you think about a stop motion video, generally you think of I like to explain it as a comic flip book. So if you take a bunch of pictures in the bottom corner of a page and you slowly flip through them really fast, it's like a quick slideshow. And these are some videos that have been made, the Lego movie, the James and the Giant Peach, Gumby, Chicken Run, the Fantastic Mr. Fox. These are all videos that were made with stop motion.
When we started talking about stop motion, we kind of thought of the 3 most important things that we wanted to make sure that we were paying attention to and focusing on, and we kind of came up with what we call the 3 C's of stop motion. The first one is communicating. With stop motion students, they're going to communicate clearly throughout this whole project that they're working on. So they can create their stop motion video. And that goes clear from the very beginning, initial stages where they're brainstorming ideas, to the very end when they have their final product completed and they're ready to present that to the class. You can see here a couple students in my class, they are in the first stages of brainstorming. And I'll talk more about this later, but they're working on coming up with story problems to use for multiplication.
The second C we were going to talk about is collaborating and how you can do that with classmates and with the web and how you do your research and finding how to write your stories and what types of stories you're going to do. What I had kids do in my class is first we had to write a different type of story, whether it be for science or for language arts. And within that, they had to write a story, and then they had to make a script that goes with it and start planning out scenes and props and things like that. So collaborating, working as a team with your group, whether that be 2, 3, 4 kids, however many, is another important step within making a stop motion video successful.
And then our last C of the 3 is to actually go ahead and create the stop motion video. The students, they're going to use this app to create, like we have here, an engaging video for their peers to learn from. So it's taking what was originally just kind of a basic learning level activity, and we're changing that and extending their thinking and their learning to allow them to have a greater depth of knowledge of whatever it is that you're working on. And then, like I said, they can take that and present to teach the class whatever it is that you're covering in class.
All right, and when I was trying to teach other teachers how to use this application, I tried to figure out a way to do some of the planning for them, so maybe the different steps they might have to present the information within their classroom, and this is a tool that you guys can use as well. And this is kind of a generic template of things or an order to go through when you're making a stop motion video. The step one would be to make a group or a team to work with, and then listen to your project description, whether that be a science, a social studies, a language arts, a math, whatever that topic is. The next step is to communicate within your group to plan and outline. The next step is to work with your team to put your project on paper, create a script of who's going to say which lines for your video, plan out your scenes, create or bring in your setting or characters and props, and we actually brought props for you guys to try and make your own video here in a little while, and then actually create the video. The toughest part for kids when they're making the video is how many pictures do I take? And the recommendation is about 8 to 10 pictures per second, and for kids that's hard to think about. So what I told them is you need about 6 pictures per second, and if you put that in math terms, that's about 180 pictures for a 30-second video. And depending on how much talking you want to do within your video, it might need to be shorter than that or longer than that, but that's kind of a rough gauge that we gave them. And then the last step would be to edit your pictures and do your voiceover when you're finally finished. And I brought 2 examples for you today. The first one is last year when I was teaching science. I worked with 2 different classes, about 25 kids or so in each class, and there were about 8 total stop motion videos made within each of those classes. So the setup I had, we were doing a project on the Earth timeline and the different time periods of Earth's history. Students had to draw a certain area out of a hat or a certain time period out of a hat because they all want to do the dinosaur phase, of course. And we used a website from Bob Ainsworth to get our information, the time period and how long that was. And I kind of laid it out for them for how they would do it. I brought a couple examples to show you guys in a couple of videos. And we're going to fast forward to, I ended up taking all their videos and putting them together on iMovie. So I posted online so we could see each other's projects. But we're going to fast forward to one of the better videos for you guys to see at the 3-minute, 40-second mark of this.
And Cole started.
So the kids have taken a lot of pictures, the fast slideshow, and their voices are over the top.
Permian period is part of the Paleozoic era. The Permian period
The
took
voices
place
are a little
between
long, so they do
250
some
to
talking, but they still picture to start
290
with.
million years ago. The reptiles inherit the Earth, and it's
They made their
basically
props out of paper, they
be
brought
killer.
3D ones in, they taped
Let's look at
sticks
some
down
of
inside
these
their cardboard
pieces.
box.
My eggs are hatching! Yay!
The Dimetrodon
The yellow dinosaur is made
chases
out of
toward
Play-Doh.
the baby because it hasn't eaten in a long time, and it's a cannibal.
The baby got away and climbed into a tree. He got away by hiding in dung to disguise
Pile
his
of poop it
sin.
was hiding in.
Now he's going after a lone daptosaur away from its herd.
Mmm, delicious.
The
Now he's
Play-Doh
getting
blood.
a drink from the watering
Watch the
hole.
trail that drags away from the other dinosaur in the back.
Arrgh!
A croc attack.
Gotcha. In the Permian period,
Fine, these are
90%
fifth
of all
graders.
organisms die. One hypothesis is it was because of climate change.
So the idea behind a stop motion video is not necessarily to slowly have choppy pictures, but to actually make it look like a video. So they moved them like a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch at a time and take another picture. Take another picture. And what I'd recommend to the kids is don't change your camera angle very much. If you have an iPad that you can prop up, leave it in that one place and don't move your camera, just move your props a little bit at a time. And then when you're done with that scene, then you can change angles. I created a couple things for my kids out of foam tag board, and basically they could slide their iPad inside of here and it has a little window for them to record through. And I'd set this on top of 2 tables so they can get a top view, or I'd set it and lean it this way so they can get a side view of the project. But this is just another invention I kind of stole from a teacher in Grinnell at the 1-to-1 conference last year. He made his out of plywood, and this was a little cheaper option for me to try this out. So that was my science example that I had for you. And then this year, if we go to the next slide, this year I am teaching a little bit more language arts with this project, and we started a departmentalized schedule this year in 5th grade. So not only was I working with 2 classes last year, now I have 5 classes, 25 plus kids in each class. I have a total of 130 kids I'm working with. How do I manage that was the question I was trying to solve. So we were starting a project to apply the writing that we were learning in class. They have an informative piece they had to write, a fictional piece, a narrative piece, an opinion piece, and again, I assigned those randomly. They 2 kids in a class got each group, and a few different examples from those. So I have a couple student examples from each one of those to show you. I'll show you a couple of them, but there's 4 examples. We won't show all of them today. How did I set that up? So with 130 kids, I tried to plan this out over a 2-week period. So I gave you a day-by-day, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5. That's what I did in week 1, 40-minute periods. And then after that, I gave you my week 2 of how we paced ourselves through this project. There were some groups who didn't use their time very well and might have taken more than our 2-week window, but that's a reference for you guys to use going forward. Here's an example of a narrative story that a group wrote on a race that they had out on the recess playground. And telling the Legos are one of the best things for these stop motion videos. You can stick their little legs on the holes and take a step and take another step. It's pretty neat how these kids made this video. Oops, I went to another slide.
Hayden thought he could beat Cade in a race, so he challenged him.
Want a race? Yeah, bring it on.
Ready, set, go! Hayden falls and eats the grass. Cade is out to an early lead.
Yay! See ya, Hayden. No!
They're racing to the door. Cade won by 6 feet. Luke grabbed Cade's hand and lifted it. Cade felt so awesome. Hayden was really sad and mad at Cade. Hayden hid his anger and gave Cade a thumbs up, and Cade gave a thumbs up too. The crowd goes wild.
Yay!
Woohoo!
Woo!
Yeah!
Oh, dog pile, look at that!
Lift him!
Lift him!
Woohoo!
Woo!
Oh, ow, that kind of hurt.
Oh,
So that was one example of using Legos, and then I'm going to choose one other example. This is an art example. I'm going to skip this one, but if you wanted to figure out how to tie this into an art class, it'd be a great way to explain a project to kids, doing it step by step. So you think of a time lapse, how things are done over a period of time. That'd be an example of this one. I won't show you it today, but you can take it with you. We'll skip forward to the fictional story, the next one. And this one is a little bit longer one. These girls spent a lot of time and a lot of pictures to write this fictional story about trying to get horns like a unicorn. So this one's pretty creative.
Once upon a time in a small village lived 2 animals. Their names were Ellie and Cookie. Hey, what's up, Cookie?
There's completely out of paper.
Hi, you're funny. Hey, you know what, Ellie? I've been thinking. We need something that makes us stand out like horns. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay, it's a deal. Hey, guys.
What do you want?
Yeah.
We're gonna get horns.
No, you're not.
Yeah, and BTW don't even know how.
Yes, we are. Don't listen to them, Ellie.
I know, they're just jealous.
I know that we will get those stinging horns.
Exactly.
I may have been eavesdropping.
Mom, you have a problem.
Okay, but I know how to help you. How? You have to travel to the Kingdom of Hashtag Bay and talk to the Queen Unicorn.
Are we there yet? Almost. And why are you complaining? You rode on my back 4 times already. I know, but can I ride it again? No! Why? Because it's right there. Okay, never mind. Hey, dude, can we come in?
whatever.
Thanks! Oh, come in! Oh, she has the voice of an angel. Hi, what do you want?
Horns, sparkly ones.
Are you worthy? Yeah. Let it go, let it go. Can't hold it. That was fabulous.
They were proving their
Well, did we
worthy
get
for
horns? Of course.
Awesome!
You know what? You can be queen. Yes!
I knew we were gonna get horns.
Yeah. Let's do a slow motion high five jump in the air.
How do we get down?
Help!
Okay, we're good.
And they lived happily ever after.
So that was a group of 2. They spent a bunch of time on their project, but how to micromanage that is a little bit tough for me with 130 kids. I'd kind of work on a station by myself, and they'd have to come do checkpoints with me every day before they went to the next step, and it was manageable, but after the first year, I know a lot more about how to do it the next year.
The way I've used this in my classroom so far this year is with math. We've been spending the last month and a half or so working on multiplication and different ways that we can solve multiplication problems. So we started out, like I said, talking about those ways. So we learned about repeated addition, equal groups, skip counting, bar models, arrays. And then I had about 6 students that were able to demonstrate their understanding of those different strategies. And I wanted to give them something to kind of extend their learning instead of having them just do our normal stuff that we were covering. So I decided to have them go ahead and come up with their own stop motion videos that then they could turn around and present to their classmates and teach them the skills or review those skills while they were able to, like I said, create a stop motion video. So first I had the students collaborate, that's fine over here, collaborate and come up with their own multiplication story problems. And then they had to decide which strategy they were going to use to solve their problem that they would have their classmates use to solve. And then they had to come up with their voiceover script for their stop motion video. The next step, I had them create their stop motion videos. They added the voiceover. And then the final step, and we just did this last week, was they went ahead and they presented their videos to their classmates, and their classmates used that information to solve the problems. So the first one I have, this is an example that I came up with. It's nothing too crazy, but I wanted to kind of give my students, especially being third graders, an idea of kind of what I was looking for. That way they weren't just thrown into the mix and just had to come up with something on their own. So this is the first example that I came up with that I showed my 6 students.
There are 6 spiders sitting on a web. If each spider has 8 legs, how many legs do they have altogether? Solve by using repeated addition. Since there are 6 spiders, you would add 8 6 times. You add 8 6 times because there are 6 spiders, and 8 represents
8 represents the number of legs that a spider's have. It got cut off. So that was what I presented to those 6 students to begin with. And then after that, I had them kind of go through the steps of coming up with their own story problems. And they just checked in with me every day on what they were working on while we were working on our normal math stuff. So the next 3 examples I have are what they came up with. And you'll see in the middle of the video there's the question mark. That's where the students in the class actually have time to try and solve that problem. No, we skipped one. Hold on. There.
Hannah D had 3 bags. She puts 9 marbles in each bag. How many marbles are there in all?
More time for this part, you can easily pause.
We can use repeated addition to solve this problem. You can do 9 plus 9 plus 9 equals 27.
So short, sweet, but they're able to use the app, get their problem out there, and then present that to the class, and they're able to kind of teach and take ownership in what they're doing. Here's one using Legos and then Play-Doh.
Mr. Dunkin made 8 cookies. There were 6 mint chocolate chips on each cookie. How many chocolate chips did he use in all?
Okay, that's fine.
The hardest part of this project is getting your voices to line up with the pictures you want them to line up with.
One way you could find out how many chocolate chips there were in all is equal groups. So there were 8 cookies and 6 mint chocolate chips on each one.
All right, and then one more.
Ezra has 4 bowls with 7 animal crackers in each bowl. How many animal crackers are there? You can solve this problem by using skip counting. 7, 14, 21, 28.
So, like I said, mine, they weren't as in-depth or as work-intensive as what Tyler had, but it was still something that those students, they got excited about, and they were able to kind of extend their learning and, like I said, be able to teach the class what they've already learned.
The possible ways to use stop motion. We've shared with a few different examples on 3rd and 5th grade. We touched on science, we touched on language arts, and we touched on math. I know that anything you do in science you could also easily do in social studies since it's a lot of nonfiction stuff, but other possible ways you could use it, you could have a station set up in your classroom with your props or your iPads there. So you might have a corner of your class with a table and an iPad there and then a basket full of props that they might be able to use And they could do this when they finish early on something, or it could be a way to make something higher order thinking for your higher students or even kids that need reteaching to do it. You could do it with handwriting, and you write sentence structure, sentence grammar, editing process, the art projects like I mentioned before, step-by-step tutorials on solving a problem or project in math or any other content area. Are there any ideas that you guys came up with that while you're watching these, how you might be able to use them in your classes? Or
Maybe go ahead and have a quick 1 or 2 minute discussion. How do you think you could use this in your classroom or with a certain subject area? Go ahead. All right, let's go ahead. Does anybody have any ideas they would be willing to possibly share out with the group that you could see how you could use this in your room possibly?
or content area or project, yes.
I teach a 6th grade computer apps exploratory, and one of the things we do is a public service announcement. And usually we just do live video and edit the video, but I think I'm going to make this a possibility for them as well, because it would be easier to create the characters and the backgrounds and stuff on paper or in, you know, in a 3D model than trying to go out and find it around the school campus. So might make their projects a little more applicable or meaningful because they can get something that looks exactly like what they're talking about.
Perfect.
We also shared some, I know some of she teaches language, English language art. She teaches English and language art, so story retell, or possibly changing the story, story ending. And then also using habitats is big in 2nd grade, so being able to create that habitat like he did, but then also be able to pull in some speaking, listening, and ELA standards.
Perfect.
We had another comment come in from online, someone saying how they're looking at putting a stop motion area into their makerspace at the elementary level. So if that's something some of your schools are thinking about, it's another resource that could be implemented in that area. Any other thoughts or ideas?
And with that makerspace, you could easily do that in each classroom by designating a 6-foot square area to it, or even a empty room or closet in the school that you could go and do this with as well. But hopefully now we're going to give you an opportunity to do your own stop motion video. Yeah, sorry.
How do you, how many iPads? You said you had 8 iPads?
I had 8 groups in my class. Our school is set up right now for 5th grade. We have 1 laptop cart for 5 classrooms, which has 30 computers, and 1 iPad per classroom. So I was able to go borrow from my other teachers in my building, so I borrowed the iPad for about a week of their time.
And when they're recording, they get that all done in one class period, all their pictures?
No, you're able to save it within the app, and they can pick up where they left off from the day before.
Okay, and then also, when you're recording voice, do they just go to another room to do that when there's other kids in the classroom?
I would ask them to prep it, do your final run through, make sure you have the timing down right, and then they could go record in the hallway and then come back in, or another quiet classroom, yeah.
Right.
The background music or background noise was sometimes a distraction.
I basically did the same thing. I had them prep in our room, and then when they were ready to do their final voiceovers, they'd either go to the hallway, or my room is right beside the library, so they would just go into the library and read it there.
We have about 20-25 minutes left, but in that time, I'm going to show you guys a 5-minute video, and this is kind of what I showed my kids as well. It's a little tutorial video, and during that time, if you find a group of 2 or 3 or however many people you want to work with this app, we've brought lots of our children's toys with us. We have some animals, some trees, some Hot Wheels cars, some whatever. So come up and grab 2 or 3 items that you want to make your practice video with. Hopefully you can take about 40 or 50 pictures is the goal. Move a little bit at a time, and then try a voiceover when you're done with that. And we'll kind of float around to answer any questions during that time if the tutorial video doesn't answer them for you.
Hi guys, Mrs. Scotch here. Today I'm going to be giving you some information about the stop motion app that you can find on the iPad or on your iPhone.
The best part about this app is it's
I'm going to be
free,
using it on the
Android,
iPad.
it's on iPhone,
The
it's on
format may
whatever
be a little
place
bit
where you
different
want
on
to
your
go to.
iPhone, but the buttons all do the same thing. You just kind of have to find where they are. To begin with, just go ahead and open up the app. It's that pretty blue one. And when you walk in, when you open it up, you'll see that sometimes other projects might open up. But to start a new project, you would scroll to the left, and it'll give you an option to tap the plus sign to create a new project. And then here it'll open up your camera window and the stop motion filming app. So there's a couple of things that you need to do before you can access other parts of the app. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and show you first how to take pictures with and without a timer. So here it's pretty straightforward. That little red button, you tap here to take pictures. So I'll take a couple of them. Another good use of this app is that you can set a timer. So here, before you turn on the timer, you actually have to set it. So when you turn it on, it'll give you an option of intervals. Right now it's at a 30-second interval, which is quite a bit. Because I am in close distance from my objects, I'm actually going to move it down to 5 seconds. You can't go any less than 5 seconds, unfortunately, but they can be as far as 90 seconds. You would use that in the sense of doing more time-lapse option. So I'll bring it down to 5 seconds, and then I'll close it. And then this little button here right next to the clock, if I turn it on, the timer's enabled. And you'll see that around the red dot, you'll see the timer go off, and it'll take a picture. Now I can move my little men without having to go back and click. So this is a really nice option to help you save time, because you'll find when you're making your stop motion app that the most tedious thing is taking pictures and then moving back and forth.
Depending
So
on
I'll
what
just take
device
one more
they're
here,
using,
and
pushing
then
that
I
button
will
sometimes
turn
knock
off the
camera
app.
over, so that
The
timer is
timer.
pretty helpful to have that every
Some
5
other
seconds.
options that you can do here, if you press the little camera button, it brings up some camera function. So for example, here you have automatic focus. If you disable it, you're going to have to focus it here, but I do want it on. You can also disable your exposure, your white balance. So this gets a little bit more advanced, but for the most part, it's pretty simple. You can also flip your cameras around. Here I am, which we don't need to do. And here, if you want to deal with the rule of thirds, turn on those little grid marks. And then finally, there are options for green screen remote camera, but because this is a free app, we're not going to be dealing with it.
Say the $4.99 or whatever to get the
You can
extra
also
features
disable
if you
sound,
choose to.
but we're going to be taking that out in iMovie. So let me show you the other things that you can do. You could actually record sound within here. It asks for access to your microphone. You would just hit record and have it over what you need. I would suggest doing this more in iMovie just because it gives you more freedom. You can add images that you have in your phone or iPad, but it's actually a locked feature. That is more on the one that you have to pay for. The most important one I would suggest to you is this one. It looks like a little wheel next to the clapboard. And this is your settings. So it'll ask you about play your last 12 frames, meaning when you play back, it'll just play the most recent ones you took. Would you like to, when you replay, does it replay it as a loop? The one that you need to pay attention most here is the movie frame. So remember when I taught you in class about the ideal frames per second to create a smooth stop motion movie is between 8 to 10. Right now it's at 5. So to change the frames per second, I want to make it more, so I'm going to put it at 8 because I actually do not have a lot of pictures. As you take more, it will gradually be easier to see the movement of your objects. I will say that you can adjust depending on how fast or slow you need your objects or cutouts or anything else you're using for stop motion to be. So once I'm done, just go ahead and hit the little wheel. And if I want to replay, I would just go ahead and it'll play it on a loop. Here are my little guys. Very simple. So remember, on average, you guys each for a 30-second film are about to be taking around 300 photos, which seems like a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, when your object is moving very little, it's not. So let's say I'm ready to finish my movie and transfer it to my laptop for editing. This is how simple it is. You would go back here, press.
You just share it like you would any other video or photo that you wanted to share. But I wanted to point out 2 other things. This little swivel bar right here, this will fade in and out your last picture. So let's say I knock a guy over and I want to put him back in the same place. If you drag this little bar up or down, it will show partial or full of your last picture, so you can actually put that item right back where it's supposed to be. The other cool feature I liked was with the voices. Originally, I thought you had to do all the voices at once, but as you see these pictures at the bottom, do you see this purplish pink box around it? Whatever's in that purple box, if you slide it over, you can put a different box in there. But wherever that purple box is, where that voice is going to start. So say I wanted this character to talk for a while, I'd have the purple box here. And then at the end, I want a different character to talk, I can slide this over and put it on this 8th picture. So your audio can be on different pictures. That was a big part that I didn't realize till this year when I did the projects.
That little button. And then at the bottom of the screen, you have options to go to YouTube, to delete it. What you want to do is press this button in the middle to share. It's going to give you several different options. The only thing you need to do is save to camera roll. Once you save to your camera roll, it gives you options. There's some really cool things. You could do an animated GIF, you can do it square for Instagram, but we always were going to do it HD at 180 pixels. So you'll hit share, it turns it into a movie, and the reason we exported it to the camera roll is that it makes it easy to transfer to iMovie. So if you guys go ahead and click the annotation, it will take you to the next YouTube clip showing you how to edit your films in iMovie.
You guys can finish. There's a little bit left, but you guys can finish watching it on your own time. But were there any questions about the app before you start playing that we're not sure about? Okay, so our goal is if we want to take about 40 pictures, that might be about an 7 or 8 second video overall if you have 6 frames per second. So feel free to come up, grab 2 or 3 props, take them back to your group. Hopefully you can return them at the end so our kids don't cry when we go home, but feel free to explore. We'll be around to help. There's animals, there's cars, there's people, Kung Fu Panda people.
Yeah.
While you're bringing toys up to the front, seeing some fun videos being created, any questions that were generated as you worked through this process? Anything that comes to mind? Yes.
Just wondering how they share their videos.
All right, I'm on. This group just asked the same question. When you're done making your video, they have a little arrow pointing to the left. That's how you go back. Let's see if we can get this video up here to show it to you. So I get her default screen anyway. All right, right here, do you see this back arrow button? This is how you go back to the home screen, and that's going to take you back to where I had each of the kids title their projects. So let's say this group had Bob and Fred working in it. This one had Sally and Joanne working in it. That's where I would put each of their projects, and then they would select the videos. At the bottom of that screen, there's the share button. So if you're in your app, if you're in your app, there's that share button below there.
Then what's the portal? Like, how do kids get to see each other?
When we have Apple TV in our school, so we were able to just show it from the iPad. But I also installed the Google Drive app, so I had them share it with my email, and then I could share it wherever I wanted from there, or post it to YouTube. Or
One of the nice things about this app is that it'll save to your camera roll. So once it's in your camera roll, you could upload to YouTube, you could save it to Google Drive. You have basically control over the file, which so many of our free apps will not allow you to save it to the camera roll. So that's something really nice about this app is you have the freedom. Once it's in your camera roll, you can email it, you can upload it, you can basically have control of that file, do what you want with it. Thank you. Any other questions? Couple quick things before we thank them for their presentation. First off, you are invited back at 1 o'clock, 1 to 3 o'clock. Some of you may have attended in the past to our PLN that meets, and so they'll be back in this same room from 1 to 3 o'clock. Also, if you would take a second before you leave, we'd really appreciate it. At the bottom of that agenda, where is the link to the eval form. And then just a couple quick reminders. You know, all of you are going to go back to your schools, and the question always is, how do I share this information with other people? The videos of this session will be up pretty soon. If you go to that website, that tinyurl.com//HAEA-TIC, you can get to the YouTube channel that has all the archived presentations. You also on the website can find all the agendas for every TIC session, and that links to everybody's presentation. So please take advantage of that. And then once again, just a reminder about the April 26th is our next TIC session. If you know anybody that'd be up for presenting for that or would like to attend, please tell them about this. We really appreciate you taking the time to come out here today. And let's give our last two presenters a big round of applause for the great information. Thank you very much for coming, and have a great afternoon.